Hey, Hound Dogs, I'm David Hankins,
I'm Paul Hankins.
and you're on the air with Power Squared. This week we have a special guest, Moni Barrette from LibraryPass Comics Plus. She's here to talk to us.
Yay!
You are the Director of Collection Development and Publisher Relations. Is that right?
Yeah, that's quite a mouthful, but yes, that's one of the hats that I wear. That's my Comics Plus hat.
Okay. So tell us about Moni Barrette. You've gone from librarian in a traditional sense to sort of a virtual librarian now. I mean, is that kind of true or?
Yeah, so I manage the digital collections for Comics Plus, but as you mentioned, publisher relations. So, like you folks, I work with a lot of creators and publishers of all different sizes to get their comics. And now, actually, we're starting to add some new products like early readers into exclusively into schools and libraries.
So how'd you get involved with comic books?
I actually got involved with comics around 2015. I mean, I was reading them long before that, but I had just started a new to me job as a librarian in North County San Diego Library. And I realized that they had a bunch of mature titles in the designated teen section of the library. And that was creating a little bit of friction because even before the kind of post 2020 era of like all these book bans and challenges, that's always something that libraries have, had to address. And so, as you can imagine, having things in the teen area that were really quite adult was not a great look. And so when I got there, I made that assessment, was able to do a little budget analysis and a presentation to the administration at the time. And they gave me a whopping $200, I believe it was.
Oh,
Yeah, right. But I was able to move the mature titles out of the teen area and then get all of if you're a librarian, like 757, the cartoons out of that comic section in the Dewey Decimal area and the nonfiction, and make an adult section. And it became really popular. And from there, I saw that San Diego Comic-Con has library book clubs, and I was like, I want to do one of those. So I reached out to them and they let me do one, and it got so popular that we got a second one for the library. And then I got asked to speak at Comic-Con, and it sort of all snowballed from there.
huh, okay.
Yeah, I've noticed the San Diego Library has been involved with Comic Con.
Yeah, they always have a,
Yeah, they're great.
and they actually have, we've been to some panels that are hosted there.
Yeah.
So you read comic books as a kid?
I read cartoons like comic strips in the newspaper as a kid, and I guess I didn't think about it. Like my dad would give me like Gary Larson and like Garfield and all of that kind of stuff, but not really like the traditional superhero. Just more because I wasn't really exposed to it as like an only child of parents who didn't read that kind of stuff. But definitely when I started dating my now husband, which was 30 years ago almost, like we've been together a long time. He was like, I was still coming out of like my English degree and going to grad school, and he was like, comic books are really fun and they can be really complex. And I'm like, nah, that's not true. And so, long story short, he talked me into reading one, and I had to like reread. It was Watchmen, and I had to like reread for the density of it. And I realized like there's more here than just the typical boom, pow, bam story. And that was kind of it for me. Was I just really got back into it from there.
Yeah, we got sort of exposed to Watchmen at Comic Con.
Yeah.
We'd actually gone to a panel for Kite Kubo.
Tite Kubo,
Kite Kubo.
the mangaka for Bleach.
Sorry. And you have to get in early, and so the panel before was watching The Watchmen. And so we sort of got absorbed by that and read The Watchmen, collected the comic books, saw the movie, every little variation of it, and yeah, so it's a very that's a monumental kind of
Quite the starting point,
yeah.
right?
So before you started LibraryPass, you were the co-founder of Creators Assemble.
Yeah, still am. Yeah, we run a nonprofit. We're based in San Diego, but our network is actually international. But we do a lot of like networking events, but we also do a lot of fundraising for different projects. And just we're going to be doing classes all summer, like with artists and kids, like teaching them how to make comics and build characters. We also do a lot with gaming. So like TTRPGs, like role-playing games, how do you incorporate them with learning outcomes into classrooms and libraries? So yeah, we have a big summer plan. We've got a full-time intern coming in for our first time. And so we have all kinds of programming to keep them busy. But yeah, it's called Creators Assemble. And it's funny because I was listening to your show just to get it like a feel for you both. And you guys were talking about the WonderCon networking event that you didn't make it to. And that's our event. We do that every year at WonderCon and Comic-Con.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to WonderCon this year, so.
I hope to see you. We're not allowed to do the full announcement yet, but the networking event will be there. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, we were kind of waiting. We just found out this week that got professional status renewed.
Awesome. Congrats.
It took 6 months practically.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
Yeah. So yeah, we are going to WonderCon and Comic-Con. So
neat.
Yeah. So you came to LibraryPass in October of 2020?
I think round about then. I was like kind of part-time contracting for a while until we figured out, because LibraryPass is a newish company, and it was funny because our CEO had a vision. He was like, I know I need a librarian, but I don't really know what I'm going to have them do quite yet. And that's how I ended up with publisher relations, which is just fine. I've learned a lot. But yes, around that time, and just started doing things like collection development policies and curating so that, the homepage when you go on there looks good. Every month there's something new for readers, and, deciding which publishers to reach out to so that we can add their content, and just really helping kind of design the collection, which is what a librarian traditionally does, in a typical role too.
Okay. And I think it was in January you sort of expanded out to indie comics.
Yeah, I mean, we had some indie folks, and we've kind of opened and closed. We still have a very small production team and a kind of hands-on production process, and so we can't take a huge volume of comics all at once. So it's kind of like opening the faucets. But yes, I was really happy to hear about you guys too, because I'm always looking for anything educational, anything that it's going to appeal. While we do have full collection, which is adult as well, our main bread and butter right now is teen, high school, and middle grade level. And so it was a great find to come across you all too.
Well, thanks. I want to say we heard about them through Don.
Yeah.
And we had a panel at LA Comic-Con called Under the Radar.
Mm-hmm.
Comic books indie comics that you don't see in the stores. And we were, of course, it was our panel, and then Don went, and we had someone from Delegates.
Yeah.
Tina Sessa Ward was the other guest, and so we had Gamal Hennessy on our show 3 years ago, and his recommendation is that we get into a library, we share our stuff, and of course that's easier said than done.
Right.
And so so I think it came up at that panel, and so I looked into you guys, and I wrote to you. I think it was June of last year or something. Finally got around to doing it, and you were not ready yet for indies or whatever it was. I wasn't sure
we weren't ready for new partners really, and we're kind of back to that for the moment because we've got some other plans coming up too. But I love to try to sneak people in whenever I can, so I'm glad glad that we're here.
I appreciate you sneaking us in.
Yeah,
you were very. I mean, I wrote to the help desk, I think, because I didn't know what else to write.
Yeah, in general.
And, is it Guy Gonzalez?
Guy, yeah.
Okay, wasn't sure. He wrote back and he copied you and said, we'll keep you in mind, kind of a deal. So I kept sending you guys the new issues so you kind of remember we were still there.
Patience and persistence. I'm the same way, so I appreciated that. Yeah, and Don, man, he was one of the first people, with my nonprofit too, that we made connections with, that just everything from we did artists connected with Make-A-Wish kids to do superheroes for the kids and things like that. Don was one of our first ever artists to do that. He's amazing. I heard you talking about him also on your show, and I'm just like, he's like the unicorn that pops up in everything.
Everybody seems to know him, and he's really big about. I know he posts things about everybody that's going to be at the conventions he's at and where they are.
Yeah.
And he seems to, a lot of stuff circles around him, orbits around him. Yeah. Okay, so you also do programs, as you mentioned, at conventions.
Yeah. There's a networking one that I probably can say we also expanded it. So the networking one we originally had was it's teachers and librarians who use comics, and they moderate each table just to keep it good. And then it's kind of a speed dating style where the general attendees rotate, and we'll have comics creators, publishers, editors, people from all different sides of comics, just to kind of get a feel too of like, hey, there's more than just two different kinds of jobs in comics. Here's some other opportunities. But we'll get we had Scott Snyder at our first one, we had Jeff Johns, and I only say that because what's really cool is in the description, I put it alphabetically because I'm a librarian, right? I have to do that. But it's also nobody is bigger than anybody else. It's everyone gets equal billing. And so, the first year when we had Scott Snyder, it was people came to see him because the rest of the time he was selling $400 autographs, and with us he was there for free. But we keep it rotating so that you do have to have really impactful discussions with someone who's indie that you might actually learn more about, the beginnings of a business from, or things like that. So, and now we've expanded it. At this coming WonderCon, we're going to be doing another one. So we're doing that one. And then we're doing a TTRPG. So we'll have cosplayers and gamers and people coming in. Skybound has some of their folks on their entertainment side coming in to do with the gaming. So I think that one's going to be a lot of fun as well.
So what, if we were to attend, what would we expect to do?
So you come in and we greet you, we seat you at a table, and then it's just basically a clockwise rotation. Depending on the number of tables we have, every 15 to 20 minutes, you rotate to the next table. And so you'll have the opportunity to meet and talk with every creator, every industry person, and of course all the teachers and librarians about how they put their stuff into the libraries too. So,
okay. So it would just be an opportunity to kind of introduce ourselves to people. Is that the idea?
Yeah, but it's really cool. When Jeff Johns was there, we had a kid who traveled from Mexico, and he's a teenager, and it was his first ever con. And Jeff Johns reviewed his portfolio and gave him advice, and let other people hear it so they could hear the advice and stuff. It's really, really neat. People make some great connections, swap business cards. People have done projects together after meeting there. We usually have Don if he's able to get off of his booth for long enough, and it's really fun.
Okay, well, we will try to attend. You haven't announced it yet. What day is it on?
It'll be on Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One is on Friday, one is the gaming one's on Sunday.
Okay, so. Well, we probably won't be able to. We're only going to go on Saturday, I'm afraid.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I have this other full-time job thing.
I know, right? That's always a hindrance.
It always gets in the way. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier. In a recent video, you revealed as a librarian you have a tattoo of a famous quote on your arm.
Oh, yeah.
But you actually did not say what it was. So I was just...
I have Good Trouble tattoo. It's my handwriting. My grandmother used to call me Trouble in a fun way. And then, because I was always in trouble with my parents, but she thought I was great. And then I, in around the time that I got that librarian job that I told you about where I was using comic books, the One Book, One San Diego is a community-wide read that KPBS puts on. And I heard that a graphic novel called March by Congressman Lewis was actually on the selection, and they were scared to pick it because they didn't know if their demographic was going to appreciate an illustrated book and all this stuff. So I got myself on that committee just to help sway the vote.
Right.
And we did it was the biggest attendance they'd ever had for their kickoff event when Congressman Lewis came to speak. We had really great community programs around it. At the time I was hosting then it was 12 years running book club, and it was mostly older women, and they were so mad at first when I was the one book this year is this graphic novel. They were oh, the lettering is so small, how are we going to get through this? It's got pictures. And then they came back a week later and they were begging, do you have volume 2? Do you have volume 3? that book brought the community together in so many important, amazing ways, did a lot of cool things for my career because then I got to go talk about it a lot. Got to meet Congressman Lewis, which was really inspiring. So he has that quote about getting into good trouble
Right.
and necessary trouble. And so I have good trouble on me.
Okay.
And the video you're talking about that was with Michael Threets, huh?
I think so, yeah.
Famous super librarian Michael Threets, yeah.
Yeah, right. And librarians, he has like lots of tattoos, as I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All characters and stuff. Talk about another library inspiration. Love that guy.
Okay. We wanted to ask you about a recent article that you published for Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Remember this?
Ooh, it's printed. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, everything's printed. Okay, so it's called A Guide to Getting Your Books Purchased and Promoted in Libraries.
Yeah.
And before we do, okay, yeah. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about, Power Squared.
Yes.
Those are this is the right now it's exclusive to LibraryPass.
Ooh, that's cool. We ought to add that into our marketing.
I'm sure to boom it up. But so I thought it'd be nice to give you something kind of for the time being exclusive. So the new one, which is 7 through 10, is
gorgeous.
Right now it's just only on LibraryPass, but I had hard copies printed out. So.
Comics Plus exclusive. I love it.
The little extra that I give. So you've read it?
Yeah. And it's, you know what? And it's so it's well written, of course, but it's like it's really well drawn, and it's really good. And I see a lot of indie work, and it all varies. But I really I was an Eisner judge last year. Like, I love looking at one-off comics and things. And you guys are really, congratulations to you and your team for putting something really lovely out there in the world and fun.
Okay, well, I'm glad you liked it. Where do you see the you're obviously trying to sell this or to high schools and colleges?
Sure. Yeah.
Have you had any success yet, or is it too soon?
It's a little bit soon. I should have, I meant to check your performance, like the royalty reports, before I came into this. But I'm doing, actually, every month we do a new curated list, and we have a superheroes list, and then I have an indie list too. Actually, it just came on. Today's the first. Right. The indie list came up today, and you're on it. And I've found that those curated lists, both librarians, tip for you guys, I'm sure they already know, but like physical, like end caps when you go to the store, libraries do kind of a similar thing with displays. And having them on our digital curated list seems to help drive that to discovery to people as well. And then you being not all the way in the adult is helpful too, because again, our larger demographic or our larger readership will see the book.
Yeah, we're trying not to be too, we want them to actually, it's about college students, so things happen, but we're not trying to be graphic about it.
Sure, yeah, there's romance, and the language is realistic to the way college students speak, but it's not, anything over the top. And I appreciate that because, man, I put this beautiful book in young adult the other day, and then I got to page 128 of 140, and suddenly there was all kinds of nudity, and I was like, darn it, this is such a good book. It's a great book. There's nothing wrong with it, but for our readers, we had to put it in adult, so it limited access for sure.
Okay. So let's get back to the article. So in the article you talk about librarian sorcery for getting the book in the library, which reminded me, of course, of the hey, you should get your book in the library, which is we tried with they had both my sons went to CSUN. Mm-hmm. Paul and Trevor, and so we contacted the CSUN library, and they were like, would have nothing to do with us, because it has to come
they only got from certain vendors,
right? And if we gave them the book, they wouldn't put it on the shelf. They would sell it at a whatever.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so it's like, okay, this isn't easy to do. So that sort of rang true to me.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that I think they might have edited some of it down out of the article. But yeah, that definitely getting an in with someone who will at least look over your book and take it personally by hand, then increases your chances of it going on a shelf instead of being sold. So, yeah.
So your tip number one was to, sort of a get one, give one.
Yeah.
Sort of meaning give one to libraries, which was sort of back to the, are they really going to take them, I guess.
That's it. Again, it depends. And you can find better luck sometimes, just generally speaking, with like a larger library system, because they're more likely to, like, especially for comics, to understand, that graphic novels do circulate or check out, do well in libraries. And also, if they like one, they may be able to, have a venue or another way to get multiple copies across their multiple branches. So that's always a nice little entry. But yeah, with your book specifically, like, school outreach is good. And yeah, local public library, like being able to do a program, like coming in and saying, this is how we created the characters and how you can create your own, featuring the team from, Power Squared. Like, that's probably going to be your best friend. And I realize that's exhausting, right? Like, it's a whole nother level of marketing, but that's kind of the point of the article too, is like, once you do a Kickstarter and it's successful, or once you've sold something in a retail shop once, like, now what, right? And libraries are a whole other audience, and schools are a whole nother like budget and a whole nother readership. So why not get that exposure if you can, and give your book more life?
Right. On the surface, it's a great idea. Tip 2 was to make your books library friendly.
Yeah.
Which was having sort of a one of the suggestions was a reading guide or activity guide. Would you see that working with something like Power Square?
Potentially. For your book, it would be more fun focused. So thinking about, like, we've done everything from, compelling the reader to sketch their own character, or do something social media related and, hashtag your book, or make a playlist of songs that they feel like their characters would be listening to, something like that. Just kind of make it more fun. Okay. Trick them into learning.
You also mentioned getting an ISBN number.
Yeah, if possible.
How does that help getting it into libraries?
So, and I think they edited a lot of that out too. The more data, as much as it's not fun, but you do it once, the more data, author, colorist, all of these things, that you can put, the higher the discovery, and the easier for a librarian or a teacher to know where to put your book, right? Like, the librarian is going to get 500 books in a month or whatever, and not going to read them all, obviously. And so having an age rating, having all of the information, having an ISBN number so that they can look it up online if they need to and find reviews. Also, inevitably, when someone complains about a book, they have the ISBN number to look it up and say, no, this other reputable source said that it is great for this audience or whatever.
So should the ISBN number be on the book itself?
If possible, sure, yeah. But just having one in general, any data. Libraries are very data driven, that cataloging, the nuances of positioning it to the right audience, like not putting the mature ones on the teen shelf. Right. The more data you have, the more you can help get yourself found.
Yeah, when we started sending you things, I bought some ISBN numbers to use, and then you didn't want one, so I was
no, I have it. I do like those. And so the other thing about that too, and America doesn't do it, but I know that like England does. I don't know what other countries, maybe Canada. If you have an ISBN number, they actually, and your book is at like whatever libraries, they actually pay you annually. It's just a little bit, but it adds up, from all the libraries that you're in, when they're able to track where your books are located.
Okay. Well, okay. I can give you one for the second volume, but
I'd love that. Yeah.
Okay. I'll sign one for it. Okay, and then you talked about attending gatherings like the American Library Association conference.
Again, another one that's easier said than done, but American Library Association is the biggest library professional association. It has under its umbrella library teachers, all kinds of things. But one of the interest groups also is a comics interest group. I was actually the president of it last year, the Graphic Novels and Comics Roundtable. But in general, Artist Alley exists at a small press. All of these things to really meet and greet librarians, and when you can make that impression, they're going to be like, "Oh, that's someone who I want to find a way to purchase their book." Or someone who I want to have them come in and do an author event or a virtual event at the library. So, kind of networking with, we're a smaller community than you would think. And if you make a good impact, you can really start to grow.
Well, I joined the American Library Association.
Yay! Welcome!
When is the convention, or when was it?
The conference is every end of June. So they're doing it in San Diego this year. They'll kind of switch between East Coast, West Coast. So yeah, they're actually going to be at the San Diego Convention Center this year. Oh. Yeah.
Well, will I get some sort of notification that it's happening?
I can send you the information, because I think they're still taking like small press and like indie and all those kind of folks.
We're definitely small press.
Yeah. It gets expensive, but you might find somebody. I know a couple of guys in Don's circle do it. Maybe you guys could figure out a way to do it together. Okay.
And you also, so donate is another option, which gets back to them not necessarily taking it. Tip number 4 was making your book more widely accessible, which was going to sites like NetGalley.
Idlewice.
Yeah, so I went to NetGalley, and just to do it, it would be for 1 week is $150.
Really?
Yeah, and for 6 months per book is $550.
Cuckoo bananas.
Which was sort of like a little out of my price range.
Absolutely, yeah. So the magic bullet that I've been looking for, and if anybody who's listening to this knows, because I know people who work at so there are library approved vendors, as you guys had mentioned earlier, like Brodart, Biblioteca, Baker and Taylor. And the real sauce is getting in with them, because what they do is they'll build like a cart for an online cart, a digital cart for a library. And the library's like, oh, I need to spend this much money this month. They built me a cart, done. So obviously the sauce is to be the guy that gets into with those vendors. I've been trying, I know people who work at those vendors, but we haven't ever found how an indie person can get in with those vendors. So that's my next magic bullet. Once I have that information, I'm gonna I don't know if I'll be allowed to share it. I'll sneak it over to you guys.
No one knows you're saying this, so it's okay.
Sending PDFs to librarians. If you can find a comics-friendly librarian that you've talked to that's responded to you, you can email them your PDF and let them, review it. That's kind of the idea between a NetGalley or something like that, is they could review it in advance.
Yeah, because I was interested in that, but it was like, whoa.
I know, I didn't know that, but just like a single issue, sent as a PDF is a great start.
So you also mentioned other digital platforms, including Comics Plus. What's the difference between your those other platforms and you?
So having been a librarian for about 18 years, I did have Hoopla and Overdrive, which is the Libby product that a lot of people are familiar with. They're really great. They have different things they have movies and magazines and things. Comics Plus right now is exclusively comics, graphic novels, early readers. But with all of those, they are exclusive to schools and libraries. The big major difference with the Hoopla and the Overdrive, you'll have Marvel, DC, and then the major print publishers, your Macmillans, all those guys, Penguin. We do not notably have those really big guys, because what we do have is at Comics Plus a simultaneous unlimited use access model. And that's very different because for those who purchase, who get the Hoopla subscription, just as an example, for a library, you have to give a certain amount of your budget. And then for every license, so, a James Patterson book, for instance, you're going to have 60 people in your community who want to read that book, and you're going to pay literally sometimes like $60 to $100 for a single license that only one person at a time, and you get a 6-month waiting list, and you get patrons mad at you, all of that. So yeah, and then after that expires, like you say, it goes for like a year, you have to then make a purchasing decision again. Do I want to pay that money and get it again? It just requires a lot more thought. With Comics Plus, you are able to curate, make your list, turn off titles, that kind of stuff. But you pay one subscription fee, and then I told you I did like those Comic-Con book clubs for the library. We couldn't afford to buy a copy for all 25 members of every book club. So Comics Plus is a great idea for everyone being able to read the same at the same time. One book, one San Diego, everyone can read the same digital copy at the same time, talk about it, learn together. Classrooms use them at the same time. And there's no waiting and there's no hassle for, any of the popular titles or anything.
Okay. You also talked about introducing yourself at the local library. How what would you actually be doing? I mean, walk us through that a little bit.
Sure. It depends on who you get, right? Like I like to believe that the old dragon gatekeepers are no longer working the front desk at the public library scaring people, but that still exists. For the most part, though, you have really dedicated, friendly human beings, and just like anyone, you're someone who uses the library, they've seen you around, and getting to know, if you can find out, hey, would it be okay if I found out who does your programming? So if you wanted to, say, do author talks or whatever, can I find out just who does your purchasing? Or is there someone who specifically purchases for comics here? Because sometimes, depending on the size of the library, like they'll purchase for certain items.
Right.
And just making the acquaintance of that person, maybe leaving a business card, and then a follow-up email. Hey, here's some of the things that I offer, or here's what my book is, or here's the first, the PDF of the first issue. Just getting to know those folks, and that outreach is the same thing. It's on a smaller scale as, say, attending an ALA and getting to know, a handful of librarians. But even better when you can work with a library that's in like a system of other libraries, like I was talking about San Diego County, because then you get like a consortia, and you're able to kind of like get in their rotation of, oh, I know a guy who has this one kind of book, and he can come talk about it or whatever. And they start talking to each other.
Okay. All right. So we just actually have to take the guts to go up and actually talk to somebody. Okay.
It's hard, and that's one thing. That's one of the things that Creators Assemble and my nonprofit is kind of for too. Is like, it's a whole. I mean, you guys know there's so much noise out there, right? Like, there's so much social media content. There's so many people trying to sell really good, like talented, great people trying to get their stuff out there. How do you get someone's attention? And so these are the kind of like, nobody gets into librarianship to be probably the most like having to talk to people person. Probably a lot of people don't draw for a living so that they can talk to people for most of their life.
Yeah, most of the time you're kind of introverted if you're creating something, and you have to go out and actually talk to people. It's kind of a tough.
Yeah. But having that network like Dawn brings together is kind of the next phase of getting your stuff out there.
Are you going to be doing your program at Comic-Con as well?
Assuming that it gets approved, but we've done it the past 3 or 4 years, so hopefully, yeah. And it's usually in the evening time. That one they usually give us like a Saturday, and they run for like 2 hours. So
okay, well, we'll definitely attend that. We're 5 days at Comic-Con. It's just
nice. You're going for the full experience. Yeah.
So we'll definitely want to be a part of it then. So if somebody was interested in LibraryPass or Comics Plus, what's the best way to contact someone?
So I think we have an info at LibraryPass.com. I want to say I'm Moni.Barrette. I don't know if you're going to have like show notes, probably, right? At LibraryPass.com, but you can just Google Comics Plus or LibraryPass. LibraryPass is the company name. The product is Comics Plus. But yeah, you can Google those, and there's all kinds of ways to reach out, and it'll get to me. We're a nice, small, hands-on company, and we're real responsive to everyone.
Yeah, they were. I will say you were very friendly to us.
Everyone else, I'm really mean to, though.
I'm sure. All right. Well, thanks very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's fun.
So,
If you are watching this on YouTube later and you like this, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and leave a comment below if you support your local library.
That's right.
Yay!
Right. So until next time, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins.
And you've been on the air with Power Squared.